Hello, good evening. Welcome to Look North. Our top story tonight. A 94-year-old woman waits for 9 hours at A&E at St James's Hospital in Leeds. We talked to her daughter.
I just couldn't believe it. This day and age, the system is completely not right.
We'll take a look at waiting times across our region. Also tonight, stealing to study. A Bradford playwright says she's ashamed but was forced to steal bread from supermarkets to make ends meet while studying. And how a new cooking class in Leeds helps you to make your money go further.
Do you remember arriving here?
Oakwood! This is Oakwood!
And many happy returns. 50 years on since the first film, the Railway Children are back in the Worth Valley.
Lots of fine weather to come over the coming days. Don't forget that week ahead forecast.
Welcome to Monday's show. Thanks for your company this evening. We're going to start with a story that we keep hearing about, how long you have to wait to be seen when you go into an accident and emergency department. Now, according to the government's latest figures, this spring, the number of people going to A&E is above pre-pandemic levels. Across the country, on average, 68,000 people go every day. There was a slight improvement on wait times in May, but still, 39.8% of patients spent longer than 4 hours waiting. And remember, back before the pandemic, the target was 95% of people being dealt with in under 4 hours. There is some good news locally, though. Sheffield Children's is the only trust in the country where the proportion of 4-hour waits was under 10%. Calderdale and Huddersfield Trust was also in the top 10 for the lowest wait times. However, 19,000 patients waited 12 hours or more across the country in May. Our reporter Abidjola has been speaking to Debbie, who spent 9 hours waiting at St James's Hospital in Leeds with her mum Elsie on Thursday.
My mum's 94 and she never complains, but she'd been saying that a hip had been hurting in her leg. So I tried to get in contact with the doctor who should have referred her to the hospital, and she never heard anything that day and the pain was getting worse. I was worried that she broke something. So we got to the hospital and the ambulance man said to me, "You do know it's going to be at least 5.5 hours wait," and I couldn't believe it.
And what was it like when you were in there? How busy was it?
There were just people everywhere. I think there was over 100 on the numbers on the board. There was an old man outside of me and he'd been there since 2 o'clock in the afternoon, so he'd been there 6 hours before us.
How was your mum at this point?
At this point, she was just a bit, she couldn't believe it either. She said, "What are all these people?" And I said, "Mum, they're all waiting to see the doctors. There's only a few doctors on, so we'll just have to wait." And after hours and hours, I went to the desk. 3 times I not complained, but went and asked how long we were going to be. On the 3rd time, my mum was ready to come home. She was nearly crying. She says, "I want to go home now. I don't want to be here."
And how long had you been there at this point?
I got there at about 8:30 and this was 5:30 in the morning. There was young girls across where we were sat being sick, and they was wanting medication and it was just awful. There was a ward where there was about 12 people on stretchers all waiting for x-rays and waiting to see doctors. I just couldn't believe it. This day and age, the system is completely not right.
What do you think needs to change?
The government need to employ a lot more nurses. All the nurses, all the doctors were incredible, and I felt so sorry for them because they was under so much stress. He needs to put more money into the NHS.
Well, after spending the night in hospital, Elsie is now home and she's recovering. We did ask Leeds Teaching Hospitals NHS Trust for an interview, but instead they gave us this statement. They apologise and they say they're currently dealing with a very high number of people coming to A&E. They added, "We prioritise patients based on clinical need, and unfortunately that means some people have lengthy waits." The government has also given a statement. They told us, "We are providing an additional £50 million of funding to support increased NHS 111 call-taking capacity." and working to discharge medically fit patients as soon as possible. We're also investing £1.5 billion to create 50 million more GP appointments by 2024 and help avoid unnecessary demands on urgent care. Next tonight, we all want to feel safe in our own homes, don't we? But for one tenant in a block of flats in Bradford, he says he has to beg his housing association to remove asbestos from his property. The housing association claim they've been very open about the state of the building and they're quick to respond to any issues. Hannah Gray reports.
This is York House in Thorpe Edge, just outside Bradford. Luke moved in here with his girlfriend Amber almost a year ago.
Ultimately, they shouldn't have put her in a property that was unsafe, and asbestos is unsafe. That's like the simplest way around it. It's just not a very nice place to live. I think the sort of like the tip of the iceberg's been the asbestos problem that we've had. Sort of find it in your property where you live. It's just not acceptable.
The Housing Association in communities say that they advise every new resident to York House that there is asbestos in the property, but that the Health and Safety Executive has said that asbestos is very low risk. It's in the floor tiles, and if they become damaged, residents are to get in touch within communities and they'll remove them immediately.
See that there's cracks in some of them, and I think what's happened is like there's sort of been like little holes in them over time because we've been unaware. They've just started lifting up, and as they've started lifting up and cracking further, I've just gone, that's brought, and I'll chuck it out. If I was aware it was asbestos, I wouldn't have touched them, but I wasn't aware, and that's kind of a thing that's really, really worrying.
All the tiles have now been removed from Luke's home, but he said it was hard work getting the Housing Association to take him seriously.
First of all, Luke, he is not the only one like this. There's a lot of people like Luke that are probably struggling, that are probably frustrated with the landlords who are not doing anything to help them. And I think this is just a tip of the iceberg. I don't think Luke's the only one that's got this problem at Amber in Bradford. I think there's a lot of tenants that are really struggling, and the landlords, they're not doing anything about it. That's where Acorn step in. We're basically a voice for Luke and Amber, not just them two, but everyone else as well in Bradford. We just want to make Bradford a better place, just for everyone.
Luke says people often make hurtful comments when they see where he lives.
People go to work every single day and they want better lives for themselves and for the community and for people who live in this building. So to have people kind of making comments and saying, oh, well, everyone who lives there is this, that and the other, that's not fair. That needs to stop, and people need to realise that it's in community's fault that this has happened. It's in community's fault that that's the image that gets portrayed by York House.
The Housing Association has admitted that York House is difficult to maintain. In Communities started a consultation back in November asking residents to decide whether or not the building should be demolished and replaced with new homes. They say the future of York House will be decided by those who live in it. Hannah Gray, BBC Look North, Bradford.
Next tonight, a man from Harrogate who was given just 8 months to live after being diagnosed with skin cancer has helped to set up a research centre to try to prevent others going through the same trauma. The data will be analysed to try and discover why some people are more susceptible than others. Michelle Lyons has the top story.
You have tea, Sean?
I'd love them, thank you, darling.
Yeah, okay.
Sean Guinness celebrated his 60th birthday this year, a milestone he didn't think he'd get to. Back in 2011, he noticed a mole had bled on his leg. A trip to the dermatologist confirmed it was a stage 1A melanoma, a type of treatable skin cancer.
I ended up having a small procedure that then turned into a slightly bigger procedure, at which point I was told there was no cancer left, and the chances of it coming back were very small.
8 years later, Sean suffered sudden stomach pains. This time a trip to the hospital resulted in an emergency operation. The cancer had spread to his liver and intestine.
I went into the operation, woke up, and I had a stoma bag and found out that I'd had a metre of my small intestine removed. 3 weeks after that, I ended up at my colorectal surgeon, who told me the very, very dramatic news and very scary news that I had 8 months to live.
It was just a huge shock. I can't believe that from 1 minute Sean's out and about working, although he was very tired. I do recall him explaining that he was very tired, but from that to immediate rushing to the hospital without any indication of what was wrong was very scary. Yeah, very scary.
Sean was recommended for immunotherapy, a treatment which boosts the immune system to fight cancer. 3 years later, he's still here to tell his story. He's now helped set up a programme at the University of Oxford, looking into the cause and treatment of melanomas.
Well, Sean's fantastic. He's been instrumental in setting up this programme and of harnessing patient power, if you like it. He's been a fantastic advocate for improving treatments for melanoma, for improving diagnosis and involving patients in that, rather than just leaving it to professionals.
Some of Sean's school friends have recently cycled across France to raise money for the research. And he's now looking forward to his daughter's wedding in August, aware of how lucky he's been and hopeful he can help others who are diagnosed with skin cancer in future. Michelle Irons, BBC Look North, Harrogate.
Let's bring you some news in brief now. A police investigation into child abuse allegations against a York Olympian has ended with no charges being brought.
Oh, what a good performance. That is one of the best that stands.
Stan Wild, who founded the York City Gymnastics Club, had been interviewed by police. It followed complaints about alleged sexually inappropriate behaviour by Mr Wild. North Yorkshire Police say that following careful consideration of the evidence in these matters, the Crown Prosecution Service's decision was no further action. Mr Wild has always denied the allegations made against him. A 16-year-old boy has admitted causing the deaths of 3 people by dangerous driving in a motorway crash. It's after a van failed to stop for police and then drove the wrong way down the M606 near Bradford, where it hit a taxi. Taxi driver Sohail Ali and his passenger Simon McHugh both died, along with the passenger in the van. The 16-year-old admitted the charges in court this lunchtime and will next appear at Bradford Crown Court next month. Motorists have faced long delays after a rolling roadblock protest in Yorkshire about the price of fuel. The Go Slow demonstration has been taking place across the country, including on the A64 near York and at Ferrybridge services on the M62. Police deployed stinger devices to prevent demonstrators leaving the site. The campaigners are calling for a cut in tax following the rising fuel prices. Officers searching for a missing woman from the Helmsley area have recovered a body. After an extensive search, police believe they've found the body of 31-year-old Chelsea Allen, who went missing in the early hours of Sunday morning. The circumstances are not currently believed to be suspicious. Chelsea's family have been informed and are being supported. Rugby League legends Kevin Simplyfield and Rob Burrow were among thousands of people who took part in the Leeds 10K yesterday. Rob, who has motor neurone disease, was in a new specially designed wheelchair for the race. He was having such a brilliant time with his mate Kevin and other friends as well, who helped him complete the course. Thousands of pounds were raised for lots of different charities yesterday. What a great day it was. Now, tomorrow we have a special edition of Look North looking at the rising cost of living. Of course, some of you will have already started to feel the squeeze well before this year. The financial pinch really started for many people during the pandemic, and that was before inflation began to soar. In a moment, Kathy Killick has the story of a cookery school based at the Leeds market, which aims to help people make their money go further. But first, Tom Ingle meets a young Bradford screenwriter who says she felt she had to steal bread so that she could eat and make her money go further.
My name is Rachel Sampson, I'm 25 and I'm a screenwriter from Bradford.
It's not easy becoming a screenwriter. To chase her dream, Rachel went to a specialist college in London. But the dream soon became a nightmare.
I'd saved up for 2 years for this course, and then within 2 months I'd lost all my savings because I couldn't get a job because of the pandemic. I applied for a hardship fund to try and help me, and luckily I did get some help, but at that point it was too late. I'd already lost my home. My money was just draining every single month. I couldn't afford to eat. I had to shamefully steal bread from the supermarket so I could just eat something.
Can you tell me a little bit about the lead up to that and the thought process you went through?
Well, you don't really have a choice. You know, you've run out of resources, run out of options, and you just have to think, right, well, this is what I need to do and I've got to do it. I didn't want to ask for help from other people. It is embarrassing, and then you just have to do it and then be put in a shame cube for the next few days.
Having lost her home, having resorted to stealing, Rachel came back to her family in Bradford, completing her studies from a tiny box room.
That took a mental toll. 2 weeks after moving out, the school then said, "Oh, we can help you." So that allowed me to return for the month that I needed to be there and finish my study.
I think throughout COVID, obviously, there was a lack of part-time jobs. A lot of students who usually rely on their parents saw their parents kind of hit hard times due to the pandemic. So I think that's kind of led students looking for more help and looking for more hardship funding. As kind of a nationwide statistic, around 76% of students worry about making ends meet.
You just feel really resentful and bitter and just angry and really upset.
Rachel's story has a happy ending. She finished her course with a distinction. Her first short film script has been produced. She's now back in London, having spent precious little of the year when she was supposedly studying the city actually there. But it took desperate measures. Tom Ingle, BBC Look North, Bradford.
Looking in our bowls, what do you think we're going to make? Fish cakes, yeah, absolutely. Well, was that one more time?
In a shop unit in Leeds Market, they're cooking up a storm. This is the Ministry of Food, set up by Jamie Oliver to teach the skills to cook from scratch. The recipes are healthy and, importantly now, cheap. Tinned salmon, for example, is much cheaper than fresh, but still makes a tasty fish cake.
That's one of the main things that we talk about, unfortunately, in our lessons. And not just the cost of ingredients, it's the cost of cooking the food as well. So we're trying to look at ways of reducing sort of things like even having the oven on, using things instead of maybe using the microwave or slow cookers as well. We talk about hints and tips. It's definitely real and it's definitely on the forefront of everyone's minds.
It seems to be the main topic of conversation as people are walking through the door is the cost of living, cost of food, etc. It's things that people are really anxious about, which is quite concerning for us.
The course has top tips to save money. You can batch cook, saving money on fuel. Using food that's in season can bag you great bargains. Replace expensive meat with pulses like lentils or chickpeas and use your local market. It's a great source of cheap, fresh food, as the students here have been finding out.
It's just a great opportunity really to just go home and then start budgeting a bit better and a bit easier, and then if you cook in big batches then obviously you're saving on your gas and electric for that day.
I've been throwing half, maybe even 3/4 of the good stuff away rather than using it to cook with, so it shows you how to make things from so little. I mean, look how much we've made today from so little.
A decent takeaway between me and my son is something like £15 if you get a decent takeaway. For £15 I can go to Lidl and Aldi and buy enough ingredients that we can cook for the whole week.
And it's tasty too. And while rising food prices are no joke, there are some creative solutions to help put food on the table. Cathy Killick, BBC Look North, Leeds.
That looks delicious, doesn't it? Some great tips there. Two very different stories there about squeezing budgets, and tomorrow we'd really like to hear from you. As part of our special programme, we'll be live in Bradford with your stories about balancing budgets and changing lifestyles. We'll hear from experts and also some of our correspondents, and if you've got a story that you'd like to share with us or you want to ask a question about how to make your money go further, then tweet us at BBC Yorkshire or email us look.north@bbc.co.uk, and we really look forward to hearing from you. OK, let's bring you a bit of sports news now. Calvin Phillips has signed for Manchester City from Leeds United. City are initially paying around £42 million for the midfielder, which could rise to 45 with bonuses. In an emotional open letter, Phillips has thanked the Leeds fans for their support and highlighted the role Marcelo Bielsa played in his career. He also says he's joining the best team in the country. He will be missed at Leeds, though. And Leeds Rhinos were the big winners in the Super League over the weekend. They thrashed Hull FC 62-16 in Hull. There were 2 tries for the captain, Cruz Leeming, but 5 for winger Ash Hanley. They repeatedly tore FC apart down the left. Next up for the Rhinos is Castleford, who won on Friday. They face each other at the end of the day, one of the Magic Weekend in Newcastle. You can see all this weekend's highlights on the Super League show, which will be on the iPlayer in just a few minutes' time. Now, I played this original film to my children recently and they absolutely loved it. For a certain generation, the classic film The Railway Children is the very essence of childhood. Famously filmed at the Keighley and Worth Valley Heritage Railway, it tells of the adventures of 3 children who grow up alongside the tracks. Now, 50 years since the cameras finished rolling, a sequel has been produced, and just like the original, it even stars Jenny Agutter waving his red bloomers at the trains live from Oakwood tonight. It's our very own Mr. Perks. So there you are at Haworth. In Haworth, I do apologise, Phil, but looking very much at home there with the locomotives.
Indeed, I am at home, Amy, and just take a look at this handsome beast. This is an S-160, otherwise known as Big Jim, built in America in the 1940s, and it takes a starring role in the new film in the sequel. Now, yesterday, people gathered to see the world premiere at the Keighley Picture House, and before that, the stars of stage and screen gathered at Oakworth Station, where the Railway Children, The Return, is set. Let's take a look.
It's the backdrop to one of Britain's most beloved films. And just over half a century on, the sequel promises to capture the imagination of a whole new generation of fans.
Do you remember arriving here?
Oakworth! This is Oakworth!
Like it was yesterday.
These are for your village, and watch out for nits.
Jenny Agutter again plays the role of Bobby Waterbury, but this time she's a grandmother who hosts a family of World War II evacuees.
I have to say that my role in it is quite actually small, but I am mother to Sheridan Smith here as my lovely daughter in the Railway Children, and it's the grandchildren that are the Railway Children. Well, it's one grandchild and his evacuee friends that come to live with us.
Well, I'd like to welcome you all to Oakworth.
We'll stay together no matter what.
To be cast in this was kind of one of my highlights of my career. I'd been here, again, I'm not a huge part in it, it's all about the kids, which it should be. And Jenny came towards the end of the shoot, and I remember when it was like royalty walking on, everybody was like, Jenny's here, you know, because it's your baby. And so, yeah, I'm just honoured to be a part of it.
The idea for a sequel was sparked by the daughter of local film producer Gemma Rogers.
I just sort of basically set about trying to put together the plot of a film that would be a homage to the original by nodding with all the same locations and certain beats of the story of echoes of the original story, but that it be a story in its own right.
With us, side by side.
The stellar cast is completed by Sir Tom Courtenay, with John Bradley taking up the role of Station Master Richard Perks, grandson of Albert, played by Bernard Cribbins in the original.
It's a privilege and very intimidating at the same time, because that's a character that's such a place in people's hearts even now, and people have such affection for that character.
In 1970, the Railway Children provided a global platform for the Keighley and Worth Valley Railway. While the parallels with the original film are as straight as the tracks over which the new story travels, 50 years on, this timeless tale is building a new head of steam.
So what could this mean for the Worth Valley? Let's talk to Noel Hartley from the Keighley and Worth Valley Railway. Noel, it was a fantastic day yesterday. You've seen the film. What do you make of it?
I think it's great. I think it really shows off the local area. It shows off the railway in a fantastic light. And I think it's just so great for Yorkshire to have, a film like this back on the big screen.
It wouldn't have happened. There were 2 critical factors, according to the producer. One was Jenny Agutter agreeing to take part again for continuity, but you guys especially lending your hand and this railway.
That's right. It was quite a special moment for us having Gemma come to us and say that they wanted to do a sequel of the film and for it to be set on the railway that the original was, because we've been waiting 50 years for this to happen. So it was really a special moment for us.
Behind us, I said earlier on, this is Big Jim, which is one of the star attractions of the new movie, and you're going to be running this up and down the line and a special Railway Children Return weekend later this summer.
That's right, yeah. So Big Jim will be hammering up and down the railway for people to come and see. And like you say, there'll be a Railway Children weekend on the August bank holiday later in the summer. So that will showcase things from this film and also things from the original as well.
Do you expect more people to come to visit the railway over the summer? Certainly, we saw big crowds yesterday, didn't we?
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, it's a classic location. Oakworth is so lovely and beautiful, and just the local area really is a great place to visit. Haworth's just up the road, so there's something for everyone.
Well, I know how hard you guys work to keep and preserve this wonderful heritage line, so good luck, and I hope you get plenty more visitors coming to enjoy the KWVR. If you haven't seen the film, it's out on the 15th of July. I haven't seen it yet, but you can bet your boots, Amy, I'm getting my tickets as soon as the cinemas open. Back to you.
Me too. My kids are going to love that. I can't wait. And what a gorgeous area it is in Oakworth as well. Lovely weather for it.
I'm glad you said that. I live in Oakwood and I've not noticed a train station there before.
I knew you were going to pick me up on that. I do apologise. I'm in Oakworth. I've had a very long programme.
Anyway, you've been invited to the premiere, I gather.
Oh, it was yesterday. I couldn't make it.
Oh,
but,
really? Were there any other Z-listers there, Amy? Or...
Well, there's Phil there.
That's very true, very true.
You didn't make the cut, I take it.
Let me show I did not make the cut. A couple of pictures. The first one is absolutely beautiful. That's a meadow in Easingwall. Now, the second one's really interesting. It's been another dry month. Spring was very dry, March, April and May, and conditions are very dry. That's a farmer's field in Doncaster. Keep the pictures coming in on Twitter, Instagram, or on the Weather Watcher website. OK, let's have a look at the headline for the next 24 hours. Very straightforward stuff, really. Mostly dry, the odd shower possible, especially in the west. A mixture of variable cloud and spells of sunshine, and high pressure is going to be with us probably for the first half of July, there or thereabouts at the moment. Just 1 or 2 weak weather fronts brushing to the north. That means, for example, Wednesday morning there might be the odd spot of drizzle, no more than that. But the general thrust of the first half of July forecast is predominantly dry, and it will become warm at times. There's your satellite picture then. We've got some sunshine poking through the clouds. The clouds should in general tend to melt away, with the exception of a few showers returning into Pennines, but they'll be few and far between, and we'll see lowest temperatures coming in at 9 or 10 degrees. So tomorrow's high water times finally at 8:59, Bridlington at 9:09. So 1 or 2 showers running through the West Yorkshire Pennines into South Yorkshire at first tomorrow, but they will push away southwards, and then it's looking set to be a nice day. Partly cloudy skies, but there'll be spells of sunshine, and any cloud that does develop may well melt away through the second half of the afternoon and into tomorrow evening, mainly sunny by then. Temperatures around, if just a little below average, 19 or 20 Celsius is 68 degrees Fahrenheit. The odd spot of drizzle possible, especially over the Pennines Wednesday morning, but as you can see, a lot of fine weather and becoming warm as we head into the weekend. Amy, that's the
Looks
forecast.
gorgeous. The London premiere is at the weekend of The Railway Children. Have you been invited to that one?
Oh, no.
I'm sure you could black your way in. You can have my ticket if you like.
Oh, thanks.
That's it from us. Sally Hurst is here with your late news tonight. Bye-bye. No.